Hey guys, I'm the 50s kid. This is the E46 BMW. It's got a bad steering angle sensor and I will replace it in this video. It's a big pain in the ass on how to replace it. Before I get into that though, it was diagnosing exactly why that was the problem was actually an interesting tale because I couldn't figure it out. When I tried to plug in my scanner here, it couldn't find any of the modules on the car except for the engine computer and the transmission computer. An ordinary scan tool, like a simple scan tool, that still works just fine. You can plug that in and you can read the emissions codes and the readiness monitors and stuff. But a more complicated scan tool that actually reads the manufacturer specific modules on the car and all that stuff, it wasn't working at all. It wouldn't detect any module. And this was the big problem. And so I actually went about diagnosing that, and that's how I figured out it was the steering angle sensor. So why don't I quickly go over how I managed to do that? If you're not interested in that at all, I'm gonna put chapter markers on this video so you can just kind of skip right ahead to the actual DIY repair. But if you are interested in how to diagnose a problem like that, what do you do when none of your modules can be read? I'm about to go over that right now. All right guys, this required me to print out some wiring diagrams on this car. This is the actual DLC connector, the OBD2 connector inside the car itself where the driver sits underneath the steering wheel. So pins 16 and 1 are power. They're 12 volts coming from fuses. Pins 4 and 5 are grounds, okay? Pin 9 is actually not used, and pins 7 and 8, those two are used for communication. These are the two K-CAN lines. If you've ever wondered what those were, those are the K-CANs. So when I was diagnosing things, I basically just, put the pin of my multimeter on one of the grounds, and then I was testing for power. We had power on 1 and 16, so the power's fine. And I was able to see some voltage on pin 7, but I saw no voltage on pin 8. Now pin 7 connects directly to the DME and then to the transmission, okay? So this is why I was actually able to read just fine with my OBD2, my regular OBD2 scanner, because all that does is it connects directly to the engine computer and it just reads whatever's going on in the engine computer. But it's pin 8, it's this pin that actually leads to a much larger network of all the other modules on the car, okay? And that's the one where there's problems. When I hooked my multimeter to pin 8, there was no voltage at all. So what I did was I found the schematic of what's all going on with pin 8, and this is it. So you can see here we have a whole bunch more modules. They're all connected in parallel, okay? All going back to pin 8 right here. This is the ABS unit, instrument cluster. If you have a convertible, it's the rollover sensor. If you have the E46 engine, that's the fuel pump module, the 2 xenon headlights, the DSC, cruise control, transmission, again, another DSC pin. Probably this is the older DSC, actually the ABS or the ASC they used to call it. Over here, you've got the engine computer. This is the diesel one, and then steering angle sensor, 2 pins for the steering angle sensor. So you can see a lot more modules on this particular line, right? And so the way that this line works is, whereas a CAN network has a high and it has a low, and they kind of communicate in parallel, it's a little more redundant, there's 2 wires involved. This is a different sort of system. This is just 1 wire, and one module puts out the power, the signal on this line, and then all the other modules pull that to ground in order to actually send signal. So I'm assuming that it's the DME that puts out the main power. It could be another module, I don't know. But basically, if one of these modules goes bad and has a short circuit to ground, that's it. None of the whole network goes down. None of the other modules can be read. So the way you figure out what's wrong is you just start unplugging some of these modules. And once you start to see voltage on pin number 8 at the DLC connector, at the OBD2 connector, that's the module that's wrong, that's bad. So that's basically what I went about doing. I unplugged different things, and honestly, I think I went directly to the steering angle sensor, or maybe almost directly to the steering angle sensor, because it was the closest, kind of the easiest thing to get to. It's just you take the panel down underneath where where the driver's side area is, underneath the steering wheel, and it's just a connector. You pop it off. Sure enough, I popped it off, and suddenly my scan tool could read all the modules on the car. So the steering angle sensor is bad, and that's why we need to change it.
I'm sorry for the interruption, but we have to thank this week's sponsor, which is OEMBimmerparts.com. I love these guys. They've got a great website, super fast 2-day shipping. They've got multiple locations all over the US, so they're gonna get your parts to you really fast. I love the way their website is set up because it's really well categorized, and it's just the OEM parts that you're gonna need for your car, the most popular parts you're gonna need. They also have some aftermarket parts as well, quality aftermarket parts, mind you, but if you're looking for any parts for your E46 or any other BMW, they definitely got you covered. Check out OEMBimmerparts.com.
All right, first things first, let's get this panel down here removed. There's a little thingy here. You just gotta sort of pull the center out, and then the rest of it will come out. And then there should be a screw here and a screw here. I know I've removed them and left them out because I've had this problem for a long time, and I've known what it is, and I haven't been wanting to do the job, and so to bypass it, it's easy for me to take this down like this and then just kind of unplug the steering angle sensor and do what I need to do. But the reason I'm going to take this down right now, there's usually also a little thing back here that you turn to the side and pull out. I guess I left that off as well. I'm going to get this out of here because it's going to need to be out of here. And what I'm going to do is disconnect the OBD2 port, which is over here. All you do is you see that was like that. You kind of pull this back, and then if you pull it back enough, you can pull the connector out, and then there's a light right here, which I'm going to disconnect. So now this panel can just come out. Pin number 1 is right here, and pin number 16 is right here, so it goes across like that. So pin number 4 I said was the ground, which is that one, and pin number 1 is the 12 volt. So you can see we've got 12.1 volts there, and then pin 16 is also a 12 volt, 12.1 volts there as well. And then I can also show you that 5 is also a ground there, you see, and a ground right there. And now pin number 7 and number 8 are the 2 communication pins. So pin number 7 right here, you can see we've got 10.5 volts, and that one connects directly to the DME, which then also connects to the transmission computer. And that's why your regular OBD tool can read everything just fine. It can read the P codes and read the readiness monitors, but when I hook up a more complicated scan tool and I want to read the rest of the modules, you see this pin, number 8, is 0.631 volts. So that is no good. Hold on, let me stick this all the way in here. Okay, so watch that, and let me go ahead and unhook the steering angle sensor. I knocked that out, of course I did. And now we have 8.2 volts. So that's how I knew that the steering angle sensor was the problem. I did that, I hooked up my scan tool, and lo and behold, I can see all the rest of the modules on the network. So the steering angle sensor is bad, and to change it, it's a big pain in the ass. I'm actually not looking forward to doing this at all. All right, just to give you guys some orientation underneath the car here, this is the steering angle sensor itself. Here's the cable that I just unplugged, which was, hooked in right up here. So in order to get this thing off, we actually have to take it off the bottom of the steering shaft right here. You can see the steering shaft obviously goes through the firewall and connects to the steering rack eventually. Now, what it actually connects to is an adapter. It's sort of like, it has 2 universal joints on either end. So there's 2 bolts. There's one holding the upper section onto this end of the steering shaft here, and then the other end of it goes into the steering rack itself. So we're gonna just need to disconnect it from the upper bolt. We're gonna need to remove the upper bolt and separate the steering shaft at that point. Hopefully that's somewhat easy. And the thing is, my lower one has been off before, where it connects into the steering rack, because I've changed the steering rack on this car. So that'll actually come out easy. The upper one's never been out, so it's gonna be kind of a pain to get out. And then once that's out, there is this little metal washer right here, which is connected into a sort of a plastic thing. You can see the plastic fingers right here. We're gonna pop the metal washer up forward so that it comes up, and then we'll remove this plastic little thingy, and then we'll remove the washer. And then this steering angle sensor is actually clipped on to some, like another white plastic thing. It's got fingers on either side. I'll have to reach back there, push on the fingers, and take the steering angle sensor out, put a new one on, blah, blah, blah. Reverse of removal, and then we'll have to code the steering angle sensor to the car. I might have misspoke there a second ago. I don't know that we need to code the steering angle sensor to the car, but we do have to calibrate it for sure. So that's a procedure that you do need a scan tool like ISTA or INPA or the launch that I have. Nobody's gonna buy that launch, I understand, but you need a more complicated scan tool. You need something more than just your basic code reader in order to trigger that calibration. So guys, this is a more advanced DIY. So I'm not covering every single thing step by step, especially all this basic stuff. So obviously you can see I tore a lot of these components out. These are all what I call the common repair steps. I have this E46 common repair steps video, so go check that out if you don't know how to do any of this, but I'm not covering any of that. I'm just, I took all that out just to kind of get a view of this down here. Now, you could do this from below if you want, but I think I'm going to attempt to do this from above. The steering shaft is right here, okay? And the lower joint is down here. There's a way I could get at the lower bolt, but I don't think I need to get this lower bolt out. I think I can leave it in place, and I can just get the upper linkage, which the upper linkage is impossible for me to get you a view, but you can see where the shaft is. If you just sort of run it back and feel, I could feel the bolt, okay? I can definitely feel it. It's and it's in just the right position for me to actually unbolt it and get it out of there. So just to give you guys an idea of where it is, that's where my socket wrench is right there. And I've just been sort of unscrewing it. I had to turn the wheels to the left ever so slightly. Boom, there's the bolt. All right, so I have realized, of course, that I'm not gonna be able to pull this steering shaft down. Where is it? I'm not gonna be able to pull the steering shaft down because it's bolted down here, and there's just no way to pull it downwards. This is not going anywhere. I need to remove it from this lower thing first, because actually there is room for it to go up inward towards the steering wheel, but there's not room for it to come down. So I need to remove this bolt and pull it out first, and that way it's loose, and then I can actually get it off. So, all right, there was no way for me to avoid getting down on the ground. So this is the one I was trying to take loose. This is the one that I've always taken loose before. I could do either one. I'm just gonna do this one because it's right here. I remember to leave the key in the steering wheel so that I could turn this. So that sucker is loose. Let's see if it's loose from there. Yeah, it is. I'm lucky. So I will pull this upward. I actually might need to loosen the steering wheel, so the telescoping steering wheel thing. So let me go do that. It was actually all the way pushed in. So I unlocked it, pulled it out a little bit. Now it should be able to be pulled out. It might be that that the short end of this thing is over here because, the steering shaft might not be that long, and then you might be able to get this thing all the way up and out and loose that way. That's probably what it is. I'll bet, because that's how my luck works. So I will put this back in and try that. up do we need to go? We need to go up pretty far, actually. This might not be the way to do it. Maybe that top one is better. And now it's going to be a problem to get it back down. I got to hit that down from above, probably. Come on. It's always a bigger hammer. I felt that. Oh, well, what did I feel then? Nothing happened. I've essentially made things harder on myself. Oh, actually, I think this came down a little bit. I think that is what happened. But yeah, I've kind of made things a little harder on myself by prying up that bottom part. So I think that's like a no-go. Don't do that. It's always good to know what you shouldn't do, right? Okay, that part was good. This is loose now. Oh, you know what happened, guys? By hitting it, I just pulled it loose on the top. Yay, that is absolutely what I wanted to happen. That was what I was trying to get to happen in the first place. So that's great. That's great. I'm going to leave things the way they are. Down here, I'll come down and tighten these bolts up later, but let me put these bolts back in. So the wheels are where they are, and we don't want to turn anything at this point, not while they're disconnected like that. So yeah, we're good. That's a good tip though. What did I do? I essentially just kind of hit it down with, I'll show you what I did from up above. So the steering shaft linkage is right down here. And I sort of have my long pry bar, you know, with a curved end. And I was just resting that on the thing right there. And I just hit it. I was hitting it a bunch of times, and then the steering shaft separated on that upper section where we removed the bolt from. So that ended up being pretty easy. And I guess that makes sense because the part of the steering shaft that's inside the car actually pulls all the way up into the car. So that's where the separation can happen. That's where it can extend to. So this lower part doesn't pull anywhere. The upper part pulls into the car. So my wheels are sort of turned in just a little bit, and the steering wheel is still turned at that sort of 45-degree angle. So that's where I'm gonna put it when I'm putting everything back together. All right, so we're gonna need to get this, there's a bolt that's going all the way through here. It's a 13 on this side and a 10 on this side. We'll need to get that off in order to get this down, because there's a metal shield right here, and the steering angle sensor it's sort of blocking the steering angle sensor from coming backwards. So it actually has to drop down in order to go back. So yeah, in order to do that, we got to take that bolt out, and that bolt's long. It runs all the way through, and it's probably going to be obstructed by this brake sensor bracket. So we got to get that off. That should be a bolt right here, 10. Okay, that can just sort of hang over here like that. Oh, I should have brought the ratchet. Okay. Pedal and boom. It'll telescope in, but first we're gonna telescope it out so we can see these little white fingers here. And so now the trick is just to push those in, which I will do with a pick. Finger there, probably more on the top. Okay, so that's that. And now I can sort of split that and pull it off, hopefully without breaking it. Yeah, so that is just split on the top, and I just pulled it apart, pulled it off. Fingers go towards us, And now we have that washer, which again, when this comes up all the way through, see how this telescopes in all the way? See, now you can actually get the washer out and off like that. So that's the whole trick, is that this thing goes all the way up in. Now you've got the room. And now we can pivot this down, and now we can get the steering angle sensor out and off. But like I said, there's these two little fingers, just like on here, these little plastic fingers. There's some of those, but they're this way. And there's two of them on either side, and that's what's holding the steering angle sensor in. So this is sort of a thing where I just have to feel it, and I need my unobstructed hands. See that thing right there? That blue thing, sort of? That's the problem. That's what's holding it in. And so we just gotta like push that in a little bit. Again, without breaking it off. Oh, in fact, that's what it is. So you don't want to have this thing telescoped all the way up. You want to push it down a little bit. And I think that's the secret. Sorry about the plane. Yeah, that's the secret. Okay, so now I can see that I've got room. That must have been what I didn't do in the junkyard. And yeah, now I can do that here. And that was easy. So that was what I couldn't do in the junkyard. Just, sometimes you get a little tired. All right, I see what's happening now. That sleeve actually has to come off first. That is, I think, the part that I forgot to do here. All right, there's a white plastic thing that's where the bolt goes. That kind of came out. There's probably one on this side as well, but I'm gonna leave it in there sort of. So let's get that white plastic guy off of there first, because that's important. Aha. Okay. There's that sucker. I don't think I damaged it too much. All right, now we should be able to get this out. There it is, it's coming. And it's out. Hey. Well, that was easy. This thing holding the wire in is very funky. Let's turn it upside down. Might be a little easier. Man, that's, they did not want that coming out of there. All right, there's our old one out. Very easy. Now, I will notice that there are two notches where those two little things index, so we're gonna have to make sure it's aligned on the new one. So here's our new one, our new part, courtesy of OEMBimmerparts.com. I did grab a used one from the junkyard, because I guess I was intending to use that at some point. It's been a long time since I've had this problem, but now I'm sponsored, so now I will use this one. And I do not remember which direction the other one went, but I do remember there was a label on the back of it, so it was that way. So it was kind of like this. So that's the direction it should go in. So in other words, this little guy is towards the back. Okay, so you see here's that white plastic sleeve I was talking about. If you break those teeth off, you're not, doesn't look like you're getting that sleeve out and replacing it or anything like that. So be careful. And that's turned that way, so I'm gonna kind of go like that. And there's probably an index for that. Is there? There must be. Oh, it probably indexes up into something else. And it looks like I haven't locked this in place yet, so. Yeah, there is a, there's something sticking out, and it may be that I didn't put this on here correctly. There's sort of, there's something sticking down. It feels like that something should go into this hole on the top of the thing right there. And I feel like I didn't put it on correctly. That means I need to pull it down. But luckily we can do that because, oh well,
We might be able to do that. You know what? We can't, because I just put that washer and the thing on. I would have been able to do that a second ago, but right now I can't get up in there with my fingers and unsnap this thing because this metal plate's in the way. So I got to pull this washer back off. So that's an important detail for you. I just want to get this far forward enough that it's sort of down like this, so it's easier to work on it. So now, push the 2 fingers in. Okay, so now when I do this, there's a little metal thing, and that has to index into that hole. I feel like I need to push it up a little bit. Yeah. Okay, that was just the washer dropping. See, now it can't move. Now it can't turn. And now it's locked in. So that's very important. It has to be that way. So now I will put this back on and we'll get this going. So I hope that made sense. Yeah, there we go. So the washer is up here. Actually, the washer is not where it's supposed to be. It's captive behind that. These are all important details. Right now it's captive behind this shield. See this sort of copper colored shield? It comes down in the back, halfway down. So it's blocking that washer. The washer should be down here when you start to do this. Needs to be somewhat up there. Okay. Now the stop is in there correctly. Steering angle sensor is up incorrectly. This thing, I was probably supposed to put this in. This is going to be another one of those things, right? No, maybe I can put it in up here. It's actually not fun, just so you know. Okay, one more time. This is so dumb. Oh, I see, it goes that way. All right, and then this one is on that side. Okay. So now it goes in like that. Okay. The stop is in. We should be good now. Yeah, you can tell that has to be aligned in just such a way. Aha. I got it. Right there. Okay. So it looks like when I did the conversion for the manual, it looks like the wire is now broken. So I got to fix that. That's the brake sensor. I did have stuff on it. I did have liquid electrical tape, but I guess I just pushed my luck too far. All right, I have repaired the this wire right here, and it looks like this thing with the spring came undone. It goes into there. This is doing wonders for my back, I gotta tell you. Cool. All right, so this is our brake switch cable, which I've repaired. And then the steering angle sensor cable is up here. That gets plugged in, and then there's a little thing that it can go in, a little little holder. Yeah, just like that. All right. So at this point, I think we should plug the scan tool in, see if things are fixed before we go any further. All right, it's faster to get the multimeter out. So here is pin 8, 8.6 volts, which is great. So that's telling us that we are good to go. That's pin 7, 10 volts, pin 8, 8 volts instead of 0.6 volts. We are good. So I think you guys have seen all the hard parts at this point. Maybe the last hard part left is slipping those two ends back together, the inner steering shaft along with the outer steering shaft, but I think you kind of get the idea. That only goes one way, and I haven't turned the steering wheel 360 degrees, so I should be able to do it. I'm going to do that right now. I'll report on how that went. So here's an interesting piece of information. I had to pull this all the way off because just trying to fit it up into place back there is really difficult because there's nothing holding that shaft from moving in and out, the inner shaft on the steering wheel. I'm glad I did that too, because check this out. I thought that that little index mark on the inner shaft had to index with this right here, but it doesn't. It's actually offset. You see where it is right there? That's the notch where it fits in. So I never would have known that had I not taken this out. So yeah, you need to take this out. And then what I did was I pushed the inner shaft all the way down until that round washer was against the firewall. And then I locked the steering wheel into place. Now I'm going to go in there and slip this up on, and then I'll unlock the steering wheel so that it can telescope back up. And then I should be able to push this thing into the rest of the steering shaft. So hopefully. Okay, so I found that it was very useful to take a hammer, to take a screwdriver with a hammer and just sort of open up that joint a little bit, that sort of clamp joint, open it up very slightly, spray some WD-40 in there, and then it'll slip onto that steering shaft, no problem. You have just enough room to sort of barely push real hard and then get the bottom end slipped into that steering shaft thing. And then once you have it that way, it was kind of a mixture of, once I had it slipped in, I actually found it a little difficult to push it all the way in. So I had to sort of go back up into the engine bay, unlock the steering column, push the thing back down, you know, make sure you push the washer back towards the firewall as much as possible. And it was sort of a dance of going in there and out of there and in there, you know, just back and forth. And eventually I got it all in, got it all tightened up, and everything's good now. So job's done. All right, guys, we are going to recalibrate or calibrate the new steering angle sensor. So give me a sec to get into the proper menu. All right, so now we should be able to. Yes. And they already are. Okay. So we should read fault codes, which is going to take a while to get back in there. Cool. So we should be good to go. Okay, well, it's all done. Not the most fun job to do, but we got it done in the end, as always. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more. I'm the 50s Kid. Thanks a lot for watching.